Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ryan Ride Mechanic channel. How the heck are you doing today? Alright, today I'm going to do a quick update. A lot of people have been asking me about this, and it's kind of been sliding underneath that radar for a little bit. So today I want to talk about steel curtains update. Let's get into it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
Alright, so if this is your first time here, welcome. Glad you're here. Come over, watch some videos, keep coming back. If this is your returning time or you just keep finding yourself here watching these videos, make sure you like and subscribe, comment downstairs, do all that stuff. It does help me out and it helps the channel grow. I do appreciate it. Alright, so where we're going to start off on this, I have some pictures, which is good, but I was watching another YouTube video by Extreme Thrills. This is this was from their press event, new logo for steel curtain, Kennywood Junction, and much more. So we're gonna watch a clip of that, and there's some audio that when I heard this, I keyed into the words that were being used. So I wanted to listen to that with you guys.
Statement as of today is the steel curtain will make its grand return this season. The work to add the additional columns to the ride is approximately 90% complete at this point, and the two trains.
Okay, so heard what she said. Like, it's coming back this season. They're 90% complete, so they're not done with it yet, and they've got 2 trains on the track, which is good. Open the ride up after this long with 2 trains. That's a good thing.
Added into the track. Next, our team, in partnership with third-party experts, will begin several.
So this is the part that I keyed in on when I was listening to this. So I heard this because like I'm at work and I'm listening to stuff. So I listen to a lot of videos. It's one of the reasons why I don't pump my videos with a ton of imagery to them. It's because a lot of times I'm just talking. So it's perfectly fine. Just listen to it. So she keyed in right here and they got the words right on the screen. With a third-party expert will begin several rounds of testing. So this was the moment when I sat back and I was like, a third-party expert. So I think this just tipped the hat. And it's like, okay, this is what has happened here. And I think it's a pretty good picture we could paint with this. Let's see, did she say anything else in here? I can't remember.
Test runs. We're excited. Our guests may even see these test runs during their first visits to the park this spring.
Okay, so test runs at the park when on their first visit. So basically, that's also stating like, okay, we think that they're going to be testing this ride when the park opens. Okay, that's cool. So they're really close to it and they're moving really fast, which is great. So, okay, let me step back a second. All right, so Steel Curtain is an S&S ride. Okay, so I pulled up where else do we go when we need information other than Roller Coaster Database, right? It's a great place. I love this place. I go all over looking for information sometimes. And I know a lot of you are like, really? Because it doesn't seem like that when you make your videos. Yeah, shut up. Anyways, so Kennywood is where Steel Curtain is. They have it listed as SBNO, standing but not operating, since 7/26/2023. It's been down for a long time, a year and a half, coming up almost on its 2-year anniversary, it's a long time for a ride to be down. It's a steel sit-down extreme. Of course, it's manufactured by S&S worldwide. Duration 2 minutes and versions 8, speed 75 miles per hour with a height of 220 feet. Length 4,000 feet, great, just under a mile. That's pretty good. 2 trains, 6 cars per train. Okay. So what's really interesting about this is that it opened up back in July of 2019. And then when it did open, it started having all sorts of trouble. And they kept shutting the ride down and then opening it back up, shut it down, open back up. And we know from experience, I've had a lot of people contact me about this stuff, that they've been doing lots of welding on the structure. There was a lot of welding, a lot of stuff happening a lot of work on the bolted connections. And then just this past year, it looked like they started doing digging, and they started adding more columns, and they started adding bigger footers and stuff like that. So then the speculation came on. It's like, okay, what's been happening with this ride? Well, let's look at some of these stock pictures here. Okay, so here's part of one of the ride roll elements, and you could see that it's got pretty minimalistic supports. I would say this kind of looks like a normal S&S type support structure for this thing. But they were having all sorts of trouble with it. Here's the computer rendering of it. That looks interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. This is the steel curtain. It's after the Pittsburgh Steelers. I say go Steelers, but I live in Nebraska, so we have to say go Big Red. Otherwise, they'll find me. It's scary. I don't want to do that. Let's look at some of the pictures that I've got emailed to me. Okay, so here's a picture that was emailed to me. And I see 2 man baskets with blankets up around them. And these long wire cables coming from them. Now, those, you could tell, those are welding leads. That they've been doing some welding up there, which makes sense with the tarps around them as well. Because when you're doing welding, in fact, no, I'm sorry, there's that guy's welding right there. When you're doing welding, you want to prevent other people from looking at it, which is why when you walk by a construction site, if you see welding happening, don't stare at it. It's brighter than the sun. It could burn your retinas. Now, people say, oh yeah, but once you're back from a couple 100 feet, it's fine. But welder here, don't stare at people welding. It's not a good thing. So they got 2 man baskets. They're doing some welding, and then off in the background, they've got another man basket over there, and they're working on some of the connections. Using a crane and a man basket to get up to the high sections, which is what you need. These man lifts that you see here in these pictures, you could get them up to like 150 feet. They'll get up pretty high. You have to rent them, of course, to get super high reach like that. But past the 150 to that 200 foot mark, which is where a lot of the structure is up there, you end up hiring a crane, and they have to pick up a man basket, which comes with its own problems because you have to get a man basket close to that and either tie the man basket off to the structure somehow, which most crane operators won't let you do, or you pay someone to stand in the basket with you and hold the structure while you work on something. Okay, here's a different shot, kind of from the same angle. Wow, from those computer renderings we were looking at earlier, there is a lot more supports added to this thing. Man, look at that. They are just all over the place now. So when you add supports like that, you're going to have to do one of 2 things. You're going to either completely replace the structured area where you have the new supports that can now just bolt onto the flange where they need to be, which is complete column replacement and things like that. Or you're going to weld onto the existing structure, and you're going to add a clamping flange or something like that on there, or the flange itself, and then weld that thing on and then bolt to that. That's a lot of work, so I'm sure they had to toss a coin to figure out whether they were going to just weld on functions onto the structure, which I see they've done in some places, or they're going to make them brand new bolted together. It's like looking at it like right here around this area, right there. That looks like a joint that's been welded. Yeah, it's not even welded yet. Actually, if you look at it, that's an odd looking one. Maybe that's just part of the structure don't normally see, or they're gonna put a cap on it. One of the 2. Now, some of you might know I do a podcast, Side Friction podcast. I'm on there a lot as of right now, and Greg from Side Friction Podcast sent me a couple photos up there because he went the opening weekend and said they were still working on it, and sent me some pictures and asked, what do you think they're doing in these pictures? So this looks like another picture, kind of the same as what we saw earlier. Got the man baskets up there, looks like where they were doing some welding. And then over here in this man basket, doesn't look like they're welding. Now, he sent this picture out there and he said it looks like they've got a bunch of tools with them. And I looked at it and I said, oh, you know what they're doing? They're torquing. So once they've put those flanges together, you have to torque them down. And then after a certain period of time, so the way you build a roller coaster is you put everything together loose, and then you torque it down to its spec where it's supposed to be. And then you run the ride for a couple of days. Each manufacturer is kind of different. I don't know what S&S's spec is on that. If someone wants to comment down below, if they know the spec on that, that's great, more power to you. But it's normally like a couple of days or a handful of hours of runtime running the train around. And then you'll have to retorque everything. You've got to go through the entire track and structure again and retorque it. And then after 6 months, you have to go through and you retorque like 50% of the structure. And then after a year, you check torque physically on, it's something like 20% of the structure. And then after that, it's all just visual checks. But that's to allow little minor odds and ends of things in the structure to seat and settle and get used to each other. Paint rubs off and stuff like that, and things can start to set in, and the torque can loosen on a lot of flanges. So it's multiple rechecks as you build new stuff, especially new to old. You're going to have a lot of work ahead of them. And this is another one of those pictures I looked at and I was like, oh yeah, they're torquing stuff for sure. They're up there, they got nothing else. There's no leads out there with them or anything. They're simply just working with the hardware. So they're out torquing stuff, getting it bolted down, getting it finalized. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. During that press day, the lady said that they were working with a third-party expert. Okay, what does that statement mean? Why did I key into that statement so much? A third-party expert is something that you use when the first two parties don't agree with each other. That's when you use a third-party expert. Okay, it wouldn't surprise me if at Top Thrill 2, when they were having all sorts of trouble with it, it wouldn't surprise me if Six Flags or Zamperla called in another engineering company to basically double check their work. And they said, hey, double check this and make sure it's okay. Because sometimes when two companies work on something so intently, they might miss something big, something obvious, and it might take a third party to come in and say, you missed this, and that's what the problem is. But a lot of times what happens when they bring in a third party expert into the field, that means the first two parties were not getting along with each other. Like Kennywood was saying, hey, S&S, this is your fault. S&S was saying, hey, Kennywood, this is your fault. I don't know. This is speculation, pure speculation here. Just based on some experience, right? Speculation based on experience. So when the two companies fight with each other and they go head to head, they need another person to resolve it. Because basically, Kennywood's sitting there, we put all this money into this ride and it doesn't work. It was cracking apart. It was cracking, it was breaking, it was doing something where they had to constantly shut the ride down and do all these other repairs to the things where people are like, that ride was never open. Are you kidding me? That ride's reliability was nothing. So obviously there was a problem, and it sounds like Kennywood kept going back to S&S and said, hey, problem, and S&S was probably saying like, no, it's fine, no, it's fine, no, it's fine. Then probably, again, speculation, probably Kennywood called up a third-party expert, third-party manufacturer, and said, look at this thing. And then they gave them the specs, they gave them all the technical data, engineering. This was probably done in conjunction with S&S, so they weren't just going behind S&S's back. S&S supplied them with the data, I can almost guarantee it. And then that third-party manufacturer went and said, oh, look, this is wrong. Like you have your stresses are all off in this structure, and you need to add all sorts of supports to strengthen this thing up, because this is like a really, really loose connect set. The whole thing is just sitting there wobbling all over the place. So again, speculation, kind of based on experience. So I think what happened here is that, well, unfortunately, it kind of sounds like S&S messed up on this one. And basically, when they hired a third-party manufacturer to look at it, they agreed with Kennywood and said, yep, this thing isn't right. And they said, but the third-party manufacturer was able to say this, and they outlined it. And they said, this is what is wrong. Now, while we're on pure speculation and running on Cloud 9, let's just say by the structure, by the way that all looks in the structure, it's like I don't think there's anything to do with trains or anything like that inside these pictures. I think this was... I have no real experience with this exact function, but I think this looks like a math problem inside the structure. So for people that are always like, I want to design rides, I want to work on rides, and I want to build them from the ground up. Great, it's a childhood dream a lot of us have, that's amazing. But it's a math problem, right? What happens when you get the math problem wrong? You get steel curtain. That's just what it looks like. It looks like they got the math wrong, and basically the structure wasn't up to par. And they had to reinforce the crap out of the structure to make it work. And they got new ground reinforcements. They got new lateral, horizontal, vertical. It's like that structure looks like it's twice the size as it used to be. Holy crap. Let me pull this up on the computer real quick. Hold on. Okay, hopefully I could frame this out for you guys. Okay, so there's the lift hill, and there's the little inversion underneath the lift hill. Pay attention to all these supports all over the place, and so here's the area. I don't know, it's right here. This is what we're looking at. And now this is the 3D model, so realistically this was the one that they rendered for the park. So this is the final product. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff added onto that thing. Wow. I know it's hard to tell with all the pipes crisscrossing everywhere and the different angles. Wow, that's a lot. Anyways, so what do you think? I think basically the math was wrong. Now, is that a shot at S&S? It's like, well, it doesn't look good for them, for sure. But you also have to look at their track history. You have to look at their track history on the subject, and like how many other S&S rides designed and engineered by S&S, not taken over or anything else, designed and engineered by S&S, how many of their rides are messed up on the track? Me personally, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'm not chasing manufacturers. I know plenty of you do chase manufacturers out there, so let people know. What do you think? How many of their rides are messed up with engineering? Because I honestly don't. I know I've been on a bunch of the El Locos and stuff like that, and I haven't really seen a lot of problems like this come up. This seems to be a very unique one. So that's really interesting. But that's what I think was going on. I think the math is messed up on this ride. I'm glad that they got a third party to come in and reconcile between the two, and it looks like they've got a really good chunk of progress going forward, and it looks like it's going to be a good fix. So typically when you get a third party involved and they have you come up with a fix, it's typically good. You're going to see lots of testing coming out of this, lots of man work all the way around doing retorquing, lots of so much retorquing on this thing. Oh my gosh. They might have to keep it closed one day a week just to go up there and retorque parts of the structure, but that lasts about half a year. So It might be the rest of the season. They might lose a day out of the season or something like that to keep it up and running, but I think it'll be a good thing. And I hope people get out there and ride on it because, man, this has had such unreliable conditions. I think the park can really use a good win with getting the ride back to being reliable again. All right. I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic. If you haven't before, make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff downstairs. It does help me out, and I do appreciate it. If you want to contact me, you can always just comment. I try to read everything. I won't necessarily respond to everything, but I try to read it. If you want to email me, go ahead. My email is ryantheridemechanic@yahoo.com. You can always send me an email. That's perfectly fine. On that front, if you do in the future send me videos or pictures or anything like that, make sure you note in the email or on the pictures, even if that's fine, if you need credit for displaying them or something like that. I know other channels send me stuff too, so if you're sending it from another channel and you want your name on the video, just throw a watermark on there yourself or ask me to. I could do that as well. All right, I think that's enough. Stay off the air gates.